Without any further ado, I'd like to present our final speaker who is ready to rock and roll. This is Lara. She's from DAF. She grew up in Central Queensland on a cattle property and is passionate about the work she does dragging around a soil rig, but I'm going to let her tell you more about that.
Thank you. I am very conscious that I'm the last person holding you up before you go home today, so I'll try not to be too quick. I'm just here to talk to you. Thank you. About a couple of trial sites that the department, well, I like to say it's department, but it's Jim Fletcher. I don't know if a few of you have probably done a bit of work with him. So he's the local extension officer in Mackay and been in the region for 13 years. So it's his initiative that got these sites up. This is all credit to him, and I'm just here to spread the good word. There's a couple of trial sites. So the first one's out at Habana, and it originally started as a response to pasture dieback that appeared, and so it was one of the worst sites that Jim had seen for dieback, so that one of the reasons why the trial was set up there, and also just known collaborator as well always helps. So this is how this one started out. So this was the, firstly there were soil tests taken in August 2020. So it was good soil. It used to be a mill mud dump, so as Jay said before, lots of good nutrients in that. Being a sandy soil, the CEC was a little bit low, but the percentages were all good. Organic matter was 1.4%, which is pretty good for a sand. Slightly acidic with a pH of 6, but overall it was pretty good. Sulphur was a little bit low, so fertiliser was added to ameliorate that, and make sure that when we did the treatments there wasn't going to be any limiting nutrients. And I also feel like a bad person for talking about synthetic fertilisers, but anyway, that's what was done. This was the original spot with the dieback. This is just an overall photo of where the site was. So I guess there's sort of like this patch around here that you can see. It's where the pegs was laid out for the trial. So the treatments were based off what other research work was done with pasture dieback in the CQ area. So if anyone's familiar with Stuart Buck's work, these were some of the treatments that he's done, the exception being the harrow and fertiliser. Typically that would be a burning treatment, but being a sandy soil, we wasn't going to be a suitable option. And then the second treatment was to basically re-establish the pasture. So a bit of tillage, some offset discs, work the ground, plant. So it was V8 stylo and some jarrah grass was planted, and then a control of doing nothing. So this is just a bit of a aerial footage taken with a drone of what the trial site looks like, and how the plots were laid out. The orange here with the C's is the control. These plots here is where it was re-established and planted with stylo, and the blue ones is the harrow and fert scenarios. This was actually only taken in August this year, and the reason that looks like that is it's actually the V8 stylo growing really tall and then being trampled down by the cattle, and so it's laid down on the ground there. And then also up here, there was a bit of, not too sure what happened there. There was, I assume, grub damage, so the tussocks, the roots of the tussocks had been eaten essentially, and then the pigs got in, I assume chasing the grubs, and it was a real mess, to be honest. So that's what happened there. But everything else is all good. So yeah, to start with the trial sites, we had the quadrats. So I'm sure people are familiar with doing that, but that's just our quadrat there. So we're just looking what's inside the quadrats, and that's how we do our assessments. So yeah, we did initially did dry matter and botanical composition assessments in November 2020. Just some progress photos of a treatment being applied in December. So the treatments were put in December 2020. This is after a wet season, so this is in April 21. So as you can see, the grasses come up very nicely. So this next one is October 2021. So this is actually after the trial had been, I guess, crash grazed. The cattle were locked in there, and so they really got into the grass. So probably a little bit too much, but these things happen. This was June this year. That's Emily there. She's in the back there, in case you want to know. And this was earlier this month. So these were all the dates when we went out and did the botanyels and the yield results. So some results. So these are the dry matter yields. So as you can see, we started out with not much. We had our wet season. So then we had the blue bar here is the harrow and fert treatment. Green here is your plant treatment. And then the yellow, orangey colour here is the control. So so the plant and fert was a bit slow to get going. And then, yeah, like control, you know, do nothing, works well. And then October is when we had the crash graze. So, yeah, it chewed right down. Like I said, it was probably a bit too much, but these things happen. And then we've had another wet season on it after its graze. And as you can see, the plant and ferts responded quite well. And, yeah, when we went out and did the botanyels, we were putting our clipboards on the stylo like that. It just shot right up. It was crazy. And then earlier this month, this was the results. So it's probably, yeah, when going out and seeing the trial site, you can see that the cattle really, like, they smashed the stylo, like they loved it. And then it's responded quite well to that, and after our wet season and everything like that. And then you can see here, it's actually got the lowest yield because the cattle, well, they get into it, like they really enjoy the stylo, and it's got more protein and everything like that. And we also did the compositions of the grasses here. So we've got Pangola, Rhodes grass, Hamel grass, got some others, and then we've got this Jarrah and stylo at the end here. So this is in the quadrat. This is the percentage that the species was present, essentially. And ground cover across all the treatments remained pretty high, like nothing to note there. We did do a disease rating. So essentially we gave it a 1 to 3 rating. And so 1 was, there was a bit of rust present on the leaf ends, or maybe a bit of purpling. 2 was about 30% of the plant may have been affected, and 3 was essentially the plant's dead. And it was interesting to know, I don't have the results up here, but The plant and fert actually did have a slightly lower disease rating, so suggesting that having the legumes in there was helping the other grass species. But we can't really say that with being statistical and everything, can't say that with confidence, but just something to note, I suppose. So yeah, it's just, we do have the results for each time we went out there. So if anyone is interested at looking in the data more in depth, just let me know. I just, in the interest of time, can't go through everything. And we are hoping to do like a field walk of this site at some point. We did try a couple of times this year, but COVID had other plans for that one. And that's just that photo again without the line, so you can just see where the stylo was there. So yeah, we're going to keep continuing monitoring this site, and it's just would be interesting to see there was quite a bit of a stylo dominance here. So I can imagine that there's probably going to be a lot of nitrogen in these plots. So I suspect going the wet season, like this coming wet season afterwards, there might be a bit of grass come through there. So yeah, just interesting to monitor these plots and see what happens. So that's the first trial. The second one we have is in the Sarina Range. So it was set up just to try and see, with all these legumes varieties going around, which would actually persist and perform in our high rainfall environment. So, bit hard to read that, but that was just the soil test and also germination test. So yeah, I just want to highlight the importance of doing a germination test on your seed. So, you know, you hear about failure to establish in that, and you know, you could think you're doing everything right, but maybe it's actually the seed quality you've got that's actually what's caused it to not come through. So we actually did have in this case, the stylo seed that we had was actually not that great. So we actually increased the rate that we put it out to try and counter the fact that it wasn't germinating so great. And with the soil test here, you can see it's a bit acidic. It's 5.3, the pH. Everything else was sort of okay. Sulfur was a bit low again. The ratios were a bit out in terms of the calcium and magnesium, so we did want to try and increase that as well. So the ones that we did end up sowing was the Progartes desmanthus and also cultivar JCU9 for the desmanthus. So see, we did the 3 kilograms per hectare for that. And then for the stylo, as I mentioned, the seed quality wasn't that great, so we doubled the sowing rate for that to try and counter it. This is the plot layout. Again, probably not the best to see, but we've just got the Progartes desmanthus plus lime and fertiliser. Progartes, oh yeah, sorry. So half the plots were treated with lime at 2 tonnes per hectare to try and increase the pH and see what effect that would have on the establishment of the legumes and also the yields going forward. And yeah, each of the blocks received single superphosphate, 225 kilos per hectare. And then yeah, randomly allocated block design, all that fun stuff. So yeah, we got JCU, cultivar 9, Progartes, desmanthus, and V8 stylo, and then so they all got treated with fertiliser, and then half of them again got treated with lime. So just a photo of getting that started, putting out the fertiliser and seed. The seed was put out with sand to try and broadcast by hand due to the small plot area, and this was planted in November 2020. So this is the photo on the left was 25 days post-planting, and photo right is 50 days post-planting. So good subsoil moisture was noted at planting, and germination across the Desmanthus plots was good. So yeah, these are the Desmanthus plants, as was the broadleaf weed germination. You can see it there. So this is the mighty team. These are the pharmacist girls, and who came to help us as well, which is very, very thankful for. And that's Jim Fletcher there, for those who may not know him. And then, of course, Daniel Gonzalez. He was the cane agronomist at DAF, but he's since moved on. So this was harvesting. The first harvest of the yields was in May 2021, so after a wet season, wasn't grazed. So yeah, this is the result. Over the wet season after germination. I got all details here about how it was cut, but I'm sure you probably don't really care about that. Just a photo of how tall stylo gets. So I think that's Laura from Pharmacist. So if those who know her, that's a reference height. And then we got results. So this is the total dry matter yields for each of the treatments. So we got the Progardes Desmanthus. So this is with lime and without lime. We got the V8 with lime and without lime. And then we've got the JCU Cultivar 9 with lime and without lime. So looking at that, you could say, like with lime does seem to have an effect. Can't be the good scientists that I am, can't say with confidence that that's statistically significant, but just looking at that, it does appear to have some of effect when you lime and correct those pH issues that you have. And then we did do, for this one, we broke it down into the legume component and the broadleaf weed component. So again, we've got the Progardes with the lime and without lime. We've got the V8 with lime and without lime. And then we've got the JCU Cultivar 9 with lime and without lime. So just a note here, I suppose, the V8 stylo wasn't particularly successful in this plot. And I guess this also comes back to, we talked about earlier, knowing your soil types and like your land types and what your soils are. So V8's actually meant for like a sandy to a light clay soil. And this was actually a clay soil. So whereas the Desmanthus is quite suited to a clay soil. So don't know for sure whether that's what it was, but obviously something to factor in. And so yeah, it wasn't very competitive against the broadleaf because it didn't really come up. And yeah, you can see for the Progardes here that liming seemed to allow the Desmanthus to get up and sort of be a bit more competitive against the broadleaf. And same here with, although the broadleaf component is the same, but you do have that higher yield of legume when you lime. So just interesting results. So after we did the cuts in May, in August 21, we put in some heifers, because we are grazing enterprise and this is what it's all about. So yeah, 100 number 0 heifers were put in for a couple of days, 280 to 320 kilogram heifers. So and this is the result of the girls' work. So there was still, the rows still retained a large amount of biomass after the graze. So like they did get in, probably can't see, but they did strip the legume of its leaf and obviously just left the stem. They had lots to go through. So that did get slashed down to a foot high just to try and get rid of that biomass. And then this is the latest yields. So this was last month. And so this is the total dry matter yields. So if you look at this, it's changed again. So we've got the lime treatments have actually got a lower yield. But we, like when I look at that, we go, I think that the cattle have preferentially grazed those plots. So they're actually preferring to eat the treatments that have been limed. So I don't know if anyone else thinks that, but that's, you know, sort of what we looked at and thought might have happened. And then we've also got the composition again. So another interesting thing to note here is, the composition of your legume component to your grasses in the limed treatments. So in the Progardy's desmanthus that was limed, you've actually got a higher legume composition. So we got 28% of the yield was legume, so that's pretty good. That's probably what you want your legume component to be in your pasture, versus 10% without the lime. For the JCU 9 with the lime, it was 37% legume. And with unlimed, it was 18% of the overall composition. And well, the V8's just a bit of a failure. It was slightly, this was 5% versus 3%, so take that how you will. So that's the results that we've got on that trial, and we will be continuing to monitor this site. More cuts again after the wet season coming up. I guess it's just reiterating the importance of doing your soil testing and knowing the limitations that you've got and whether you have an option to ameliorate it, because it could make a bit of difference in the productivity of your pastures. And just some additional comments as well. This is just a fun photo for Catalina desmanthus. There was also another trial attempt in that same location, the next paddock over. So it had, the same strips were cultivated, fallowed, put in desmanthus again, but different varieties. So we did JCU 2, 6, 7 and 9 again, plus a couple of stylos and a couple of Centro varieties. And we went out there August this year, and it was a bit of a find the legume game. Like nothing came up at all. So just, like you can do, the only difference was it wasn't fertilised and it was planted a month later. So I don't need to tell you, the importance of getting your timing right and your preparations done correctly, because, it can make the difference between whether you have a trial or not, or you have a pasture or not. And also we've got a bit of, we're going to be doing another trial with some tree legumes coming up as well. So we're going to try out some pigeon pea, some Glyracidia, Caliandra, and a Sesbania sesban. So that's just an African variety, not a native one. And if this video works, this is JCU 9, and it's showing promising results as being an ensiled field when harvested during the early farrowing phase of growth. And it's been shown to have a similar nutritional value to loosened silage. And then, that's just a video of it going over the mulcher. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. I think you did very well, and that was a comprehensive coverage of 2 of those trials being run in 2 different areas throughout Mackay. Does anyone have any questions about what's just been presented? John Day?
The last one, was that a desmanthus variety that was being mulched?
Yes, JCU 9.
Yeah, right. Just check it.
Yeah.
Very tall for desmanthus.
Yeah, so that's the more coastal variety one that they're working on, and it's shown promising results. It's been good for ensiling. But yeah, they've got quite a range of different varieties, and yeah, they've all got different characteristics. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, with regards to your dieback, there's been some trial work done with just applying compost extraction and just re-inoculating the biology of your soil.
Yep.
Are you looking down that pathway at all?
I can't say with confidence that, like in terms from coming from the department, that they are. Do you know who is doing that work, or?
Yeah, it's a private company that is selling
Yeah.
bugs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I don't believe the department's looking into that. Like, I think they're just doing the conventional pasture trial work, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose we've done some. We got the Johnson Sioux bioreactor, so we've got a bit of dieback in buffalo grass.
Yep.
So yeah, we just did a 10-acre property and just monitoring that.
Yeah, okay. So you're trialling it, or?
Yeah, we trialled it, so
Yeah.
we now just got to wait for a wet season to come
Okay.
over it and see how it goes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that goes, yeah.
Hey, Lara, just a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
With your legume trial
Yeah.
and the preferential eating with the cattle,
Yeah.
is there any chances did a bricks
Just
test?
2 seconds. We're not getting any volume from that mic.
Yeah, is there any chances did a bricks test on the leaf matter just to
No,
see
we
if there
didn't.
was a indicative result or something there?
No, we didn't do the big test, no.
No, that's cool. And on the other dieback one, in the soil test, did you do a compaction?
No, but it's very close to the ocean. It's a very sandy
Oh,
soil,
very
like it's
sandy.
very loose. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Anyone else? Question? Okay. About the dieback?
Hang on.
Yeah, she's lost her voice already, so microphone will help.
Sorry, Kim and Tim, have you got anything to add to the pasture dieback from your soil knowledge, what the biggest factor is contributing to it?
I think it may well be mineral availability due to, down in Rockhampton, that sort of area where it's just grown a monoculture of buffalo, which has been great in terms of producing a huge amount of biomass, that it's perhaps a combination of mineral availability and microbial diversity. So I'm kind of in line with what Michael's thinking in terms of that. The other one that I would think is high density livestock impact, even with some feed put in, to try to, again, kickstart that biological dung and urine concentration. And one inadvertent trial that I can mention is we do a liquid mineral supplement for livestock that a farmer down there put through his dosatron, and he was meant to only give them like 17 mil a day, and he gave them 170 mil a day. And he had those cattle grazing on an area that had dieback, and what came back, no more dieback anymore. It just flourished, because obviously the livestock only take what they take, and then the rest of it gets passed through their system. So again, they're putting out a little bit more mineral, and sometimes you only need a tiny bit of mineral to act as a catalyst, as opposed to putting mineral on as like a fertilizer, for example. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I don't really have... I'd have more questions to ask, really, before I can answer anything, but then I would say that the corollary to a lack of diversity just might be an overabundance of a pathogenic organism in the roots, that's all. But
Yeah.
I'd have a lot more questions about...
That was a Pangola pasture, so that was pretty much the only thing there, yeah.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Lara.
Thank you, Lara Landsberg.